we're starting off with Raw, as Matt Riddle made his long-awaited return on this week's show, but his return to the red brand wasn't a triumph for the original bro. Not only did Riddle lose to Ludwig Kaiser, but he lost clean to the German superstar in what many considered a major upset for the former US champion. During Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer explained that Riddle's loss may be a sign of things to come, as WWE just doesn't see him as a potential top star like they have in the past. WWE's reasoning is that Riddle just keeps getting into controversies, from being accused of misconduct by an ex to cheating on an adult film actress to another adult film actress. With WWE being a PG-related product, the last thing they need from a top star is controversy, and for some time, Riddle has been a magnet for scandals, including a recent explicit video leak. It was around this time last year that some were considering Riddle a future world champion, but that no longer appears to be the case, and it may be a while before we see him get meaningful wins. During the recent WWE draft, many fans expected Ilja Dragunov to be called up to the main roster, and when that didn't happen, some said he'd be called up as part of Imperium. Clearly, that hasn't happened either, and Dragunov continues to appear in NXT, and fans should get used to seeing him on the Gold brand. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said that Dragunov is now no longer expected to be called up anytime soon, as WWE appreciates what he brings to the NXT roster. Dragunov is someone who is fresh enough on NXT TV that he seems like a relatively new talent, but also a veteran outside of the Gold brand who can help the younger stars of the roster. Meltzer even compared Dragunov to Tommaso Ciampa, who for years was part of NXT, and at one time even said he'd rather be released than called up to the main roster. Of course, Ciampa was called up to the main roster, and that could very much happen with Dragunov one day, but if Raw or SmackDown is in his future, it won't be anytime soon. More from Raw, as during this week's show it was announced that Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch won't face off at SummerSlam, much to the disappointment of the fans traveling to Detroit. Instead, the match will happen on the August 14th Raw, which will be in Trish's native Canada, but the geographical location isn't the only reason for this move. On his show, Dave Meltzer explained that WWE simply doesn't need the Stratus-Lynch match to sell SummerSlam, as the show already has a stacked card that will win over audiences. Meltzer added that the Slim Jim sponsored Battle Royal is going to make WWE a lot of money, which makes the Stratus vs. Lynch match less needed at the event to help move tickets. WWE's reasoning is that the match would be of much more use helping to promote a different show, and given the Canadian setting, it made sense to move the match to the August 14th Raw. This match will come after 4 months of feuding between Stratus and Lynch, and with Zoe Stark banned from ringside, it may be time for the man to deliver some payback to the Hall of Famer. NXT news now, as this week's show was the Fallout show following Great American Bash, and one feud that fans saw last weekend is far from over. At the Bash, the D'Angelo family were crowned the new NXT Tag Team Champions with a victory over Gallus, but the former champs were hungry for revenge last night. In the parking lot, the trio of Wolfgang, Joe Coffey, and Mark Coffey blindsided Tony D'Angelo and Stax, leading to a massive brawl outside the arena, which resulted in Gallus standing tall. In the medical room, where he teased adding a new member to the team, which as we saw in the main event was revealed to be LWO's Santos Escobar. Interestingly, during his phone call with Escobar, Tony D'Angelo spoke about this being a favor, meaning that Escobar and the LWO could soon be helped by the family on SmackDown in return. While the family and Escobar got the win in the ring, this attack in the parking lot showed this feud is far from over. And are you excited to see more of Gallus versus the family? Let us know in the comments. During the Raw after WrestleMania 39, Seth Rollins was ready to celebrate his victory over Logan Paul, but something transpired during a commercial break that ruined the mood. After his segment was cut bafflingly short, fan footage of Rollins looking frustrated during the break went viral online, and now the Architect has spoken candidly on the matter. In an interview with Sports Illustrated Media, Rollins told Jimmy Traina that this was just down to a slight miscommunication. He said, "The intent of the segment was to go to break with the audience singing my song, allowing them to sing during the break, come back up, they might still be singing, then drift off into nothingness. For whatever reason, that never made it through to production, so when we go to commercial, instead of letting the crowd party, they did the thing where they blacked the house, shut down the music, and play the stupid video packages, which messed up what the whole plan was." Rollins added that while the WWE Universe were trying to sing, commercials were airing for Stone Cold's Broken Skull Ranch, making for a bizarre moment during the night that just didn't work out. This was one of several issues which led to this year's post-Mania Raw being dubbed the worst ever, as Vince McMahon made several last-minute changes which didn't go down well. While Rollins was visibly frustrated, this didn't harm his standing with WWE, as he'd be World Heavyweight Champion within 2 months, but he hopes to never have another production error like the one we saw in April. For this year's Elimination Chamber event, WWE returned to Montreal, so it was fitting that the show saw Canada's own Sami Zayn challenge undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Unfortunately for Sami, he was unable to topple the tribal chief in his home country, but at least Zayn was booked for the show, unlike Kevin Owens. While Owens would appear during the main event, he was never promoted for the event, nor did he have a match, which remains an issue for the reigning undisputed tag team champion. Speaking to the Toronto Sun, Owens said that it hurt to be excluded from the event in his native Quebec, adding that he played an instrumental role in the show being there in the first place. Owens explained that it was after a series of Raw and SmackDown tapings before Elimination Chamber that he pushed WWE to host a PLE in Montreal, which would eventually happen. Addressing his appearance in the closing moments, Owens said it was a little bit, but looking back, he sees it as nothing, going as far as to call it meaningless. Owens has never shied away from bringing up his Canadian background, but that didn't count for much when WWE was booking Elimination Chamber, and we hope he's one day able to be on a PLE in Montreal. In October of last year, Ariana Grace suffered a serious injury that has kept her out of action ever since, in a huge setback for the second-generation superstar. This week, Grace provided an update on her injury and informed her fans that she is making progress and was able to take her first bump in the ring this week after a very long time. The injury Grace suffered resulted in her having knee surgery to repair an ACL, which can often take up to a year to repair, so a return to the ring may not be too far away for the young superstar. The daughter of Santino Marella, Ariana Grace is proud to be following in her father's footsteps and could be back in the ring very soon, and we're wishing her the best on her recovery. And we're ending with more from Monday Night Raw, as it was just a few weeks ago that Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green captured the WWE Women's Tag Team titles, the first taste of gold in WWE for both superstars. Despite being the new champions, neither Deville nor Green appeared on this week's Raw, but WWE could have had at least one of the champs appear if they so chose to. Fightful Select reports that Chelsea Green was backstage at the show but went unused, as WWE had no creative plans for her on the show. This hardly bodes well for Green or Deville, and it's interesting that neither woman was used, considering WWE are hoping that this title reign will bring some normalcy back to the tag team titles. After several injuries, titles being vacated, and a heel turn in London, WWE hopes Green and Deville can help stabilize the women's tag titles and the division, but to do so, they'll need to be used on TV.